So I'm bringing in Blueprint today. I don't know how many of you guys know Blueprint. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They have been doing lots of activities in the European partner space, for those who haven't heard of them. And I'm going to hand it over to them. They're going to do a bit of a presentation. We have two of the guys from Blueprint and actually one of the agency owners, Tom, who I know for a while, that's actively using the technology. I always think when it comes to tech partners, it's super useful as an agency to not only hear a lunch and learn, which is kind of fucking boring from a tech partner, but to actually hear from somebody who's using the technology in the agency space, how they're implementing it, how they're putting it in front of their brands. Because then it's something you can take away and then execute and implement. I feel that's enough horseshit from me. I feel everybody's warmed up now. Jason, for sure, it doesn't take much. Just 1 bar of chocolate and Jason's ready to go. So
I'm ramped and amped.
Okay. All right, guys, I'll hand it over to you. You've got the screen share access.
Cool. Thank you very much, Rachel. Lovely to be here. My name is Harvey. I'm co-founder and CEO of Blueprint. We also have Harry on the call.
Hey everyone, I'm the partnerships lead of Blueprint.
Cool. Firstly, Rach, Carol in the chat needs permission to access. I think that doc is private, just as a heads up. So guys, today I'm going to run through a presentation of how we've gone through a series of interviews and feedback with hundreds of our customers. So we've been operating as an SMS platform for the last year or so. We work with hundreds of customers all over the world. We're a 23 person team now. And we're going to go through the product that we've been building, the iterations we're going through, what it means to agencies, and we'd love to get some feedback on it. It's private, it's super new, it's not something we've launched yet. And yeah, I'm going to dive into that if that sounds good. Cool. Okay. Can screen share wise all okay? Nice. Okay. Cool. So
just one thing. Sorry, I have to interrupt. So this session that we're going to do is really interactive. So you may have noticed on the Eventbrite that there was a phone number sign up link. For those of you who haven't filled out your phone number there, it'd be amazing if you could share it via the Google form, which I believe Rachel shared in the chat here, because what it's going to mean is when we're running through these demos, we can actually send you a version of what we're talking about so you can get the customer experience and you can just understand what this is all about, basically. The numbers, we're going to delete them all afterwards, so we won't be reaching you on anything on your personal number or anything, but it's just going to mean that you have a hands-on feel for what we're talking about.
I think you need to open permission up, sorry, or whoever's on permission.
I think that's
so it wasn't just me. Okay.
Yeah,
it wasn't just you, Carol.
I was like, oh my God, I'm dumb. How do I get in?
Yeah. You need access to the form.
Yeah, it's kind of
interesting.
It can only be viewed by users in the owner's organization.
Okay. Right. Let me work that out.
Why don't I kick on, H, and then once that's done, give us a heads up, and then we'll jump into it. Cool. All right, guys. So we're going to go through what we believe and what we've built to be the most powerful solution for consumer brands to grow a resilient business over the next few years while the D2Cs get a bit choppy. So to start off, we have, let me move you guys over there. So like I said, we work with hundreds of consumer brands all over the world now. We've taken a step back over the last few months as we were positioned as an SMS platform to see how we could better solve their problems, have a better market positioning, and how we could work with the ecosystem, with our agency partners and with our tech partners much better. How can we create like the most cohesive product and proposition and positioning to drive all of that? So we took a step back, we listened to all of them, and then we got an iteration of product. Here's some of them that we work with and when we listen to throughout this process. Unanimously, when we talk to consumer brands, there's really 3 problems that matter to them. They care about getting customers to repeat order because they're sinking acquisition costs left, right, and center. Number 2, they care about getting subscribers because it's incredibly hard to get them and their LTVs are huge. And lastly, they care about keeping them. This formed like the holy grail of problem sets to solve for D2C brands. this was unanimous as well. It wasn't like we had one or two pieces of feedback. This was hundreds of ecom managers and CRM managers telling us this every day, that these are the biggest problems they face. Interestingly, it's no surprise that the biggest problems they faced. When we did the analysis, these problems are costing merchants upwards of 20% of their entire revenue, from customers just churning and not coming back, customers churning on subscription, or not gaining the subscribers relative to their targets. It's a massive problem that isn't really being solved for right now. Makes complete sense as well why it's not being solved for in D2C currently, because the state of the art, the current setup is a bit crap. Currently on the left, to actually get customers to reorder, to identify who's going to reorder, how they're going to reorder, and get customers to subscription, there's no real insights. They're kind of siloed. There's nothing when you push it into email in the middle. It's a bit there's logic to be built out, but it's very static. It gets complex. And on the right-hand side, the web pages that we see merchants send any traffic to are generally unoptimized for that specific action, because they're a broad website. Makes complete sense, therefore, why these are problems and they're not converting particularly well. We're here to completely change that. We want to flip that on its head and actually turn and solve some of those problems in the biggest way that has an amazing impact for our agency partners that work with hundreds of these brands already, and also with the merchants themselves. Right now, we think we're entering the kind of new era for D2C, where you're going to have to be a really resilient brand to survive. We think this is incredibly important with some of the things that we're seeing in the market. Specifically, taking us through the journey, the kind of D2C darling era is long gone, when the Warby Parkers of the world, the Allbirds, etc. were built. CAC was great and everyone was scaling. There's been a proliferation of brands and explosion of brands over the last few years, and we've kind of all benefited from that. And now we've entered this new territory, 2022 and beyond, where things are changing. If you don't adapt, you as a D2C brand and the agencies that serve them are probably going to falter or suffer as a result. We're going to focus on that right-hand side to change that. Makes complete sense why we're in this, or why the kind of age of a resilient D2C brand is here. One is that CAC is flying through the roof and it's not slowing down. Competition is killing brands that we work with, the agencies work with. The market is pretty crazy at the moment in terms of a bit of a bearish time for D2C brands, and consumers likely entering a recession, and then iOS 14 to add to the mix of havoc that is playing with brands to grow sustainably and problems that their agency partners will be able to solve. All the more requirements to build a resilient brand. We think there's going to be winners and losers through the next few years. We think the winners are going to keep hold of their brand customers. They're going to grow sustainably with them through a world-class customer experience. I think there's also going to be losers, the brands that continually just sink resources into customer acquisition that they can't afford, that are unsustainable, and hemorrhage their customers. These are becoming more stark day by day with the merchants we work with and our agency partners telling us. Our job is really to build that resilient brand and make sure they're winners. So that was the context that wraps everything we're going to go into so far. All with me so far?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. This brings us on to the actual product. Now we set the tone. We have built a repeat revenue platform specifically for D2C brands that is built for agency retainers. It's all co-aligned and basically came off of the back of feedback from our agency partners. This is still private in terms of the product proposition that we'll go through, and we haven't launched it to the wild yet, but we've never actually had customers swearing at us in a good way of how impactful this could be on their business compared to perhaps what our product was previously. These are some of the reactions from our agency partners, as you see in the top, and some customers that are involved in betas or have been involved in the trial periods. To preface this, it's an end-to-end solution from repeat to sub to keeping those subscriptions as the most powerful tool in a stack for any consumable brand, any replenishable brand or subscription brand. Let's kick it off with repeat ordering. Biggest problems to solve are really simple. I'm going to hand over to Harry because I think Tom has some insight on this as well.
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do here is just look at 4 of the key problem areas that we looked at specifically in that moment of the customer's journey around repeat ordering. And Tom, I'm going to pose these questions to you. But yeah, as a problem set, how much does this resonate with you? So firstly, we have different products and consumers may have drastically different times between reorders. I, as a customer, may eat 1 kilo of peanut butter every week versus someone else may take 6 months, for example. Klaviyo makes you choose a single reorder period for all reminders. So you might be able to optimize all of your replenishment cadences, but that's a single figure which just applies across all products. If you've got different pack sizes, that might not be applicable across all. Even if sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we find this the whole time. I mean, it really depends on like product to product, how quickly people use it. And we've got a client that sells like candles, and some of their clients want them like once a month. Some people don't use them for a whole year. So that kind of flexibility, you'll be able to have that flexibility in built into the subscriptions, like, would be amazing.
Possible that the people who are using the candles across a year may just not know how to use candles. Maybe they don't know how to.
Well, these candles are like $400.
They need the lighter as well.
And so if we're looking at single products and replenishable products, what is the typical kind of approach that you tend to use, Tom? In terms of Klaviyo settings.
In terms of Klaviyo, it really depends. I mean, we're always trying to kind of push people down the recharge funnel at every opportunity. But in terms of like how we set up Klaviyo, I mean, we just kind of optimize it really for driving subscriptions. I mean, we are an agency that we do email marketing specifically for kind of pushing retention, as opposed to just getting initial email signups to purchase for the first time. So kind of everything we do is kind of through that lens of driving subscription. So I mean, having an ability built into an email in which people could choose the cadence of delivery that they want would be pretty amazing.
Cool.
That's a good moment to jump on, I guess.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. With just everyone else that is on the call, are these problems that your clients have told you before? Are these problems that are familiar with you guys?
Everyone speak at once.
Yeah. Apparently not.
I can say from my standpoint, it's totally different because I run an agency that is working directly with brands on Amazon and helping them to grow their presence there, generate more revenue there, get profitable. And these are problems that they have, but there's not a lot of solves for them because Amazon gives you plenty of data to grow your business. So anyone who says that doesn't know what they're talking about. But they don't give you everything, and there are a lot of things you have to pay for. But what I will say is they're working on building internal tools to make it so that you can't, like, they have their own email marketing platform essentially that they've started to roll out. And so they're trying to be, they're behind what the rest of the DTC world is doing, you know, on their Shopify sites, Magento, whatever the case might be, softwares like this, Klaviyo, et cetera. But they're trying to build all that stuff in-house so that people will never have to leave Amazon if they don't want to.
Yeah.
But it is all stuff that people are like, how many repeat purchases do we have? What are people buying the most of? All that kind of stuff. It's all, I think, common issues or common questions.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
I mean, it's not related to necessarily Klaviyo, but I mean, in terms of like data point capture, we've been using that like Octane and a couple of those like form builders like upfront to capture these data points and then use that as a way for like basically getting the customer, particularly around like food delivery, saying how many people they have in the house, how many times they go out a week, things like that, and then using that to build a more personalized subscription cadence for them than just a more out of the box cadence that you typically get.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. When we've looked at this, Tom, we've looked at a lot of scenarios like that, like pulling in more data points, like you said, how many people you live with, how often you use this product, but the reach is often so low. Reach is often, if you get 5% of people to actually, if that, because you're probably not going to get that input that data, the reach actually for your rest of your customers is so low, and therefore the impact is super low as well. So we were like, okay, biggest impact here is to look at, or for what we saw, look historically, what have the tens of thousands of customers already done, and what behaviors can we draw out of that? In fact, kind of leads on nicely. Let's run through about what we've been experimenting with to basically be the most impactful solution to get customers to reorder. So off the back of that, number one of this solution is that we're going to give you those insights. So as Tom was just saying, exactly when your customers are going to, or your clients' customers are going to order based on their average consumption rate, the amount of product they've ordered, the average reorder gap, the volume of product, and any seasonality. Those insights are fine. They're useless until actioned on. So then what we're going to do is send them straight into Klaviyo. Within one click, since the Klaviyo as a predictive reorder event, you can then form email and SMS off the back of it. It means it's custom to every single customer. You don't have to build out these massive flows that we've just said are quite problematic for many of the merchants and agencies that we work with. And it keeps all comms in one place. That's number two. And number three, to complete that flow, and I believe the guys that would have entered their number will now receive our magic cart. Our magic cart is the end of that flow, which is an optimized cart specifically built for reordering in this instance, where it has the last product purchase, dynamic new product offerings underneath. You never need to log into it, and within a click you can convert on Shopify. From what we've seen as an end-to-end solution for reordering, because you're controlling each variable, each step, we've seen a 40 to 50% increase in conversion of that cycle, of that flow of reordering, which has been the biggest impact experiment that we've ever run. H, did the magic cart get sent?
Yes. Some of them, we've just got some complications around the international extensions and various different things. But
I've got my magic cart.
Awesome.
Nice.
There'll also be an email, guys, for reference. Cool. This is a wrapper around the Shopify checkout that converts customers quicker and easier and forms one part of the proposition. I'll jump on to the next part that then jumps to upgrading to subscription. To finish this, we work with hundreds of merchants and agencies, and this is what they have on the left. Generally, this really complex flow to get customers to reorder, and then an unoptimized page that they send to that doesn't convert particularly well. All that we're doing is tightening that entire loop on the right-hand side, giving them insights, syncing those to Klaviyo, and then converting them much quicker with the magic cart. Again, just
sorry. So, like within these kind of insights, you set parameters and like targets, like say like you just say X amount of people typically buy like every 2 months or whatever. You send them this kind of, it automatically creates the flow in Klaviyo and then sends them the checkout.
Exactly that. You have to have a statistical significant amount of data to draw or to build the insights off of. But basically, it will predict the exact product and the exact time for you after your first order.
Amazing.
Automates everything for an agency because it's a click, and automates everything for a merchant because it's a click. That's number one.
They can change the parameters of that, and like
you can play around with all the insights. All we want to do is just make sure it's there and connected to their Klaviyo. Seems like one of the biggest areas is just isolated data and analytics tools that isn't really that useful. So that's number one. Then we're going to do the exact same with gaining subscribers. Same logic, but even more of a high profile problem to solve because the LTV of subscribers for consumable brands is so critical. Harry, again, jump in with some of the problems with Tom.
Okay, problem set. I'll just whiz through these and summarize them quickly. But firstly, you can't really identify the right customers who bought easily subscribable products and who are right for a subscription. It's incredibly complex with building out Klaviyo flows. Even if you can identify those people, that just becomes like an entire minefield, hundreds and hundreds of flows. Leads to blanket covering of all customers. That's what most merchants or agencies tend to prescribe. It's okay, customer has purchased once, send subscription offer after X number of days. What this leads to is over discounting for the wrong customers, and also just burning people's attention rates generally when that offer might not have been in any way relevant to that person. What would you say to that, Tom, in terms of a problem set for upgrading to subscription?
Yeah, I'm 100%. This is something we kind of struggle with on a day-to-day basis, is that kind of blanket kind of carpet bomb approach often, where being able to be more nuanced and targeted would A, prevent burning out email lists, and B, provide a much better end result, like much higher kind of KPIs produced from the back of it. So yeah, this is definitely something we come up against, is just like awesome. Not having the means to be targeted enough.
Awesome. So let's go through that same logic then, is giving the exact insights into who's going to subscribe and when and to which product, syncing those to Klaviyo in a click, and then converting with a different Magic Cart. So some of the guys that would have received the first iteration of Magic Cart, you'll now receive the second. This is now built for subscription, where a customer doesn't need to log in. It's preloaded with the cadence of subscription that their order history suggests would be right for them. And then within a click, you can convert on Shopify. Again, Rachel has sent around an email before, and it'll be the second link in that email. From what we've seen, that end-to-end flow, again, converts incredibly well, because you just isolate the variables and make it really, really slick and really, really fast for consumers to convert. I think if we look at that last page, exactly the same. State of the art is pretty crap. Really complex flows that just blanket everyone, leading to unoptimized pages to get customers to subscribe. We tighten the loop and make it far greater for conversion for merchants and help them build more subscribers, which is pretty critical for them today. Cool. Okay, and I think we're on to the last point around, if we've got all of those subscribers, we've got to wrap our arms around and keep them. Churn is a huge problem that we and our merchants face. I know many of our agency partners face it as well, because the state-of-the-art tools don't really do a whole lot to stop the churn, other than once it's happened, a churn event, try and win them back, which isn't super useful or super impactful. Problem areas, H, you want to skim these?
Yeah, so I think these were the probably easiest for us to identify, because they just came up again and again and again when we were talking to merchants. It was all the same. So firstly, customers just receive too much product, which just generally leads to churn. They don't know how to manage and edit or change or update their subscription. Logging in is via the recharge portal, which is just frustrating. Everyone loses their login credentials, and it's just generally a huge friction point. This leads to customers churning versus being empowered to go and make changes to their subscription and stay loyal. And what this means as a secondary is that there's a increased pressure on customer services teams who need to try and manage and figure out these kind of requests that are coming in. I'm going away on holiday. I want to skip this month. I need to change my address. All of these things. How does that sound to you, Tom?
I mean, I would entirely agree with this being the kind of the one we see coming up the most. I mean, I don't know if anyone ever knows their login to anything they've bought on any brand on Shopify. So I've always thought this has been the biggest use case for our clients on Blueprint, and the one I talk about the most, the fact that you can edit and change your subscription through SMS, or your clients can, without ever having to like work out what their login is and do it manually through a kind of a clunky Shopify account section. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a huge pain point.
Awesome. Well, we're taking it up a notch here with our last variation of the Magic Cart, where customers never need to log in. This is email, SMS. We don't really care where it is. We care that merchants don't need to log in, because we authenticate them based on SMS or email. They can change delivery, change frequency, swap a product, add a one-time product, all within a single click. There's dynamic new product offerings underneath, and then a merchant or agency can really play around with the personalization of the Magic Cart. This has had possibly the biggest impact of churn that we've ever had, because it just wraps around Smarter or Recharge or Bold or whatever subscription software it is, and makes it the greatest subscription experience for a consumer ever. Again, if you guys would have seen either on your mobile from Harry or in the email from Rach, this will be the last Magic Cart link at the bottom, so you can play around with it and see how slick it is to manage your subscription if you were a merchant. Sorry, if you're a consumer. I think then there's two other points here, guys. One is that we want to completely remove that left-hand side state of the art. That login just shouldn't really happen. Doesn't need to. Authentication is there through Shopify and causes a ton of pain for agencies, for merchants, for consumers, and is very costly. On the right-hand side, we want to just tighten up a recharge and wrap around that with our Magic Card technology. Creates the best customer experience. And then to finish this flow to be the most powerful solution for our consumers is once we've got these flows going in terms of customers are reordering, customers are upgrading to subscription, customers are managing their subscription and keeping loyal, we can now add those Magic Cart links that you guys have played around with everywhere. So on the left, it's just about increasing the reach then. So this is perfect for agencies because then it becomes built into their Klaviyo and there's billable hours and tech builds within this. So on the left-hand side, you can embed those links into all transactional comms. So it makes all delivery or reviews or educational comms, whatever that is, completely shoppable because you can reorder in a click or manage your subscription in a click from there. In the middle, we've got on-site. So you can actually embed one of those buttons that you played around with on site, so we can tell if Tom or Harry are back on site based on their cookie data and what they've ordered previously, and either they're there to order again, and we'll preload that within a click and massively increase conversion because the web page is built for everything and not just reordering. And two, if they've got a subscription, manage it in a click. And lastly, you can have anything on product. As soon as you scan that in retail or at home, it'll immediately go back to a Magic Cart that's built for whatever you're trying to do. Harry, anything to add to that?
I think, yeah, just to kind of expand a bit on your point of just some billable hours there. I think when we've done the estimations here on the transactional comms, which is the first side, that was around maybe 5-6 hours of integration work that would kind of just front end work on the email comms that would be needed there. And then obviously, yeah, on the website side of it, I would imagine a similar kind of lift. And then, yeah, when it comes to the QR code, obviously the scope gets a bit bigger because then you're talking about design work and integrations into packaging and all those kind of things. So that's a bit of a longer piece of string. But yeah, this is the kind of area which we're kind of seeing as our just advanced side of the product, which is where agency support is going to be more needed for the merchants that we work with.
And Tom,
I mean, billable hours are one thing, but being able to deliver those numbers to clients is really really amazing. I mean, 30% reduction in churn is something every one of my clients would love me to deliver.
And I think the key difference. So Tom, you've seen our SMS product. I think for everyone's reference, SMS is great from what we've seen, but the reach is quite low still because the amount of numbers that the merchant may have from all of their customers is quite low. It might be 20-30%. What we're trying to do here is increase that reach dramatically. If you embed a managed subscription link or a reorder link in every single email, for example, now, it has reach of almost all of your customer base and therefore is so much more impactful. That was one of the key things here about really challenging reach and impact of every solution and to drive the most for our agencies and for our customers. And I think the last point here is that we also built this with immediacy in mind. So as soon as we integrate with any Shopify store all over the world, automatic insights are built. So day one, we'll look at all historical data to drive those insights. We connect to Klaviyo in a single click. Magic Cart is already built and is really, really easy to customize. So that means actually you're sending those flows and you're converting those customers with Magic Cart on day one. So after day one, there is an ROI positive based on those customers coming through and reordering, upgrading, or managing their subscription, and becomes incredibly powerful for every agency that we work with currently and every client because the impact is immediate. Cool. Okay. So to give you guys some context, just before we finish up, and we'd love to hear your feedback on it, is that who would really benefit from this product as we launch into the market is any replenishable brand in the world. This would be their most powerful tool to increase reorders, subscribers, or keep those subscribers. It's built specifically for that. So health, wellness, beauty, fitness, food, beverage, and pets and home, those kind of categories are perfect. If they're on Shopify, if their stack includes Recharge and Klaviyo, we're entering into strategic partnerships with both of those tools. And then lastly, if they're doing anywhere from 50K or so. So there's a volume threshold up to 5, maybe 6 million of monthly revenue, because that's where we can have an amazing effect because the volumes are there. Lastly, with Rach and e-commerce partnerships, there's 20 exclusive free trials for this platform. So you can play around with it. It's only for e-commerce partnerships. We haven't launched this publicly yet. That's why ideally keep this to us today. And to get involved with that, Harry's obviously here. Harry's our partnership lead and is managing everything. You can find him there on email or on his LinkedIn. Would love to hear your feedback. I don't know if I should pass over to Rach, Tom, or
excuse me. Just coughed to announce myself.
I think compare Rach to
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions actually. I wanted to ask Tom. From my side, I mean, I know a couple of my agencies are already working with you guys and using Blueprint, and I've seen the power of how it works. But Tom, I'd be interested to know from your side, building that in this part of a retainer model, what does that look like? Because obviously building a retainer model for Klaviyo is pretty straightforward, but then building in, getting that in front of clients, what does that conversation look like with your merchants?
I mean, for me, I see this as just kind of part of the same thing. I mean, ultimately, we're trying to drive revenue for the clients, and we use whatever strategies and tactics we can to do that. Being kind of Blueprint partners and being able to like hit those kind of numbers that they are showing are achievable through using it, just makes the retainer ever more sticky for the client, and they're not going to drop us if we know our way around like how Klaviyo and Blueprint work together, and how we can utilize this technology to like drive some of those insane numbers that we've seen. I mean, it could be like an addition to a retainer, but for me, I kind of see it as like the secret sauce. We'd kind of keep under the hat slightly. Obviously, the client would be paying for it, but our kind of knowledge of how that could be implemented would be the secret sauce, and I just use that as like a moat to defend the retainer by just delivering consistently great results for the client.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, Tom, is that we previously, with kind of our previous iteration of product, were a little bit competitive with Klaviyo. We're now entering into a strategic partnership globally with them, specifically UK and US, because we wrap around Klaviyo, we enhance the solution that they're creating in a way that just works for those use cases. So not super broad, very focused. And we imagine every agency that we've worked with is jumping at this because it doubles down on their partnership that they have with Klaviyo already, and just generates more of what they were doing and makes it more profitable and larger.
100%. Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's anything kind of totally different. I think it's just making what we're already doing so much better. And congratulations on the strategic partnership with Klaviyo. Good job.
Thank you.
Nice. So presumably then you're really looking ideally for agencies. So you're just with Shopify right now, just on the Shopify platform?
Yeah. Currently with Shopify, we do have a custom API, but we won't launch this product to it for a little while. We really want to just focus on Shopify and really just focus on those use cases. We know that, for example, our previous experience with SMS is that it's a channel and becomes really broad. With this, we just want to dial down into those use cases because we know they're the highest leverage to solve. They're the problems our agency partners want to solve the most, and there's not a huge amount of solutions that do it very well. So yeah, we're just doubling down on those problems for consumer brands.
Which makes sense. I mean, a lot of subscription businesses, by and large, DTC subscription, are all going to flock to Shopify anyway. Not all of them, but most of them. I don't want to offend them agenda.
Yeah, and I think from what we see as well, just going back to the preface of everything, is that the seas will be a bit choppy for the next few years from the feedback we've received from our agencies and from our customers, and that we really need to just tighten everything up and keep customers as best we can. And we think that's just going to be a massive benefit to all subscription brands and all replenishable brands.
I'd like to ask a quick question about from the product inventory management perspective, like from the sales perspective, like how many purchases do you kind of look at as a minimum amount to get that data for, some of the insight and trends that, you would be looking for?
Yeah. Great question, Dave. It depends. It's around the 1,000 mark, around the 1,000 order mark. It depends on the spread of products within that. If there's 1,000 different products and they're all one time, obviously we can't draw those insights, but around 1,000 orders where the machine starts to get a bit smarter, and we can start to deliver. That compounds naturally day by day as Magic Cart completes the loop. It just keeps going and getting better and better. And I think the key there is that it gets better without merchants or agencies doing anything. It just gets better and better by itself in the background.
So it sounds like to me that you're looking at the global sample of things then, and then getting that information and kind of breaking down like the average per, or are you taking like actual individual and then building up that sample?
Yeah, so actual individual. So for example, when we sync to a Shopify store, we'll look at all historic purchases and then break it down by each purchase, each customer, each product, each volume, and then get the insights. From what we've seen, for example, Klaviyo have a replenishment feature line currently. It doesn't work particularly well because it's so broad still, because it has to work for 200,000 customers and a very broad problem set, and it doesn't go very deep. We want to go twice as deep and much narrower to solve these problems, and the results kind of speak for themselves, because just in a very black and white sense, they take into account just average orders. We go into volume, different customers, things like that actually drive the insights that you need.
And I'm understanding correctly, you're going down to the actual SKU, like this, the individual product itself as well, right?
Actual SKU, so flavor variants, for example, we're taking into consideration. It gets a little trickier when you have bundles with multiple layers of SKUs and flavor variants or size variants, but there are still insights that are built. For example, there's logic like, if there's a bundle and the average reorder period is within a week of each other, they get bundled in together and things like that. So ultimately, it delivers on a number of those more niche use cases where there's more granular insights to draw.
Well, I'm looking from the perspective of, like a business like that is, selling a consumer good, but they require some manufacturing lead time, right?
Yeah.
So based on the feedback from what I'm understanding, this would be a very useful tool where I can pull the data and be like, especially in Michael's world where, Amazon, you're dealing with, possibly a lead time with manufacturers there, right? This would be something you could forecast the trends based on, kind of like investing where, not necessarily the future, returns are based on past performances, but, based on these data sets you're collecting, you can, do a Monte Carlo analysis and get quite a bit of information from it.
Yeah, you definitely could. Not a use case that we've looked at, but I guess you could use those insights for forecasting like that. Yeah.
Well, it's big savings when you're looking at sitting inventory or whatever. Like, you can't go completely drop ship.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Are you able to pull it, like, for example, someone like logs into their recharge and pauses an order for like a month, and then like a couple of months later pauses another order? Like, we can pull that insight and create an email flow to just like suggest that they just move their cadence like a month, 2 months?
Well, you could, but those insights would just be pulled from recharge like normal, because all we allow a merchant to do is we wrap around recharge and just make it a lot easier for them to be able to pause or to be able to add a product to it. We don't allow them to cancel, obviously. So those insights will still flow through to recharge and be able to draw them like normal.
Yeah. So it's just recharge at the moment, presumably. Are you looking at any of the other platforms or not really?
Yeah, recharge smarter and bold, but focusing on recharge to start with, yeah.
Yeah, Recharge obviously being the biggest subscription partner of the industry. Pretty interested to see what Smarter are doing. I think Smarter are starting to move more towards memberships. I know memberships and subscriptions are kind of sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger focus for Smarter is going to be on the memberships, which I think is going to be super interesting because I think that's where the industry is going to go. And then that moves towards lifetime value, retention, and all of that stuff, which really is what brands are looking for. So it's significantly cheaper to retain your customers than it is to acquire more. So the more technologies that we can be combining and pulling together to retain customers for our customers. And in turn, we are then also retaining our customers as agencies. We're retaining our customers by retaining their customers. It's a win-win.
It's like Inception. How many retaining customers are coming in?
I'm just retainer models for the agencies to retain the customers. Agencies to retain their customers, so I feel like I'm at the top of the retention.
Yeah, you are.
Dream within a dream within a dream.
Which feels dangerous. Did you have any questions perhaps for the agencies? Any feedback you wanted to get on the technology or how it's communicated or anything like that?
I guess from my side, I'd just be interested to know, just to flip it a little bit, like, are there any concerns or things that just kind of red flags in terms of things that you would be concerned about?
Because this is still in beta, so we're still testing out the resonance with a number of our agency partners and a number of our customers.
I'm curious about the read data from Klaviyo. Like, can you read some of the data? Like, so if I'm using like Octane AI and I'm setting up a whole quiz logic on my customer and feeding that into my Klaviyo, are we able to like use that information as well?
Not really. I think that would just be really the insight we would draw from Shopify data, less so from something like Octane in that instance. Just because that data from Octane probably wouldn't have a huge impact on reorders or upgrading or managing a subscription, more so on just converting that customer, I guess, first time.
It's getting that zero party data, right? And I think, as we go forward, it's so important for that initial collection. I'm just thinking you can ask those questions to kind of set up a different flow, but I'm thinking probably outside the box.
No, that's definitely an interesting idea, though. The idea of like the Octane AI insights feeding into our own insights engine, for example. That's the kind of data integrations we'd probably be looking at further down the line. But yeah, a little bit later after we've put out this first version, I think.
They all seem to talk the same language too, which is nice.
Yeah, you could be sending a text, be like, or sending a message, be like, yeah, we know you've got 3 people in your household. How about you get another tub of peanut butter this month?
Or one very hungry person.
That'd be me. When you said earlier about 1 kilo of peanut butter a week, I was like, what the fuck? Is that all?
That's the
I'm
speed.
not sure. You need to fucking set the game.
Yeah. Rachel keeps a jar of a Jif under her desk with a spoon already in it, I think, and just
scoop it out.
No, sorry. I sorry. Don't disrespect me, Michael. I make my own. I don't fucking buy.
Oh, I'm sorry. She presses her own peanuts. Excuse me.
Yeah. Jif in Europe is a totally different thing.
Yeah, that's thing, but I know the American one, but I'm not a basic bitch who eats it out of the fucking.
What is the big one? Is there a big one in Europe?
It's like a household cleaner.
Yeah, Jif is a household cleaner. It's the name of a cleaning product, Jif. So no,
gotcha.
I mean, no amount of Jif is going to clean me in the mind. So that would be a waste of money. Any other questions, guys? Don't be shy.
Questions generally, or just comments. If you think it's particularly good, particularly bad, we'd love to hear.
Actually, Tom, you were mentioning a bit about that kind of a hidden cost that you kind of throw in when you're setting up this, because obviously you're working with, when your build costs, you're probably putting in like, cost for Klaviyo, cost for recharge, right? And then you kind of throw this in as the secret sauce. But you just add these hours that you would for the setup for this inside those charges, I assume?
Yeah, so I mean, we do like Shopify build stuff and email marketing. So we would build this and it would build the hours as you would do normally. But I was just kind of more saying, like, I probably wouldn't throw it into, well, I would throw it into like a email marketing retention type retainer without like necessarily billing for the integration hours for that. But mainly because we typically have another engagement with them in which we're like building stuff for their website. But it's I mean, from having done it before, it's super lightweight. It's not like we're integrating it up here. It's not like it's going to be like hundreds of hours of work to do it. But I think the benefit of kind of having it up your sleeve, and obviously they've got to pay the Blueprint monthly subscription. But if we can kind of deliver those numbers, no one's going to bat an eyelid about the monthly figures or monthly costs even.
How long does an integration typically take then? Let's just assume you have a customer using Recharge and Klaviyo.
I'll just jump in here. It can take like 5-10 minutes if you want to get it up and running quickly. If you want to embed some of the links into other things, then you can obviously build in the billable hours. But actually, to get a merchant ROI positive, it's very, very quickly. So 5-10 minutes to set up and let it run.
Okay. And what about, Tom, then the ongoing work? From a billable hours point of view, from an agency, the ongoing work that's involved, what does that look like?
I mean, I would kind of throw this just into like a non like hours based email marketing retainer. So yeah, just I mean, as I would do with like kind of building Klaviyo campaigns and things, just kind of throw it in there as kind of a nebulous like creative and inside of it. But I mean, I don't imagine like building this out or building any kind of content for it is going to take very long. It seems like it does most of it for you. So I mean, maybe there's a world in which there's like a kind of a Klaviyo or email marketing retainer, and then you could have like an add-on like Bluetooth, Blueprint management add-on or whatever, which essentially doesn't cost you as an agency much to do, but can ultimately provide a ton of value and extra revenue for the client.
And then presumably then you would just wrap that in as part of your monthly reporting with the client. As you're reporting in Klaviyo, you would report then on all that data too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, probably break it down, revenue from Klaviyo, or I mean, I guess like, I mean, how would it get reported, like revenue from if you send an email with a magic cart, with a Klaviyo email with a magic cart button in it? I don't know whether you break it down into, you probably just keep it just general, like we've delivered this for you, as opposed to saying, working out whether it's attributable to Klaviyo or to Blueprint, because it's kind of both.
Yeah, so to add to that, it would just show an increase in Klaviyo because the conversion would increase, but then you'd see the actual change because we'd report on that in Blueprint. It also links to GA as well.
Okay, so you could track it in Google and Analytics. Okay.
Okay, so it reports in Klaviyo as well. Okay, yeah.
Because I think from an agency perspective, if you're recommending technology, obviously that tech stack starts to get more expensive for the client. And from an agency point of view, especially for retainer models, I always recommend agencies have comprehensive reporting where possible when it comes to the tech stack that they're actually using. Because if they're investing, let's say $2,000 or $5,000 a month for a suite of different tools, you want to be able to see which one, like where the attribution is coming from. Why would I invest this much money, even $200 or $500 or $50 in a tool that's doing nothing when I have other tools? And that's why I asked the question, because you don't want your attribution to get lost in what Klaviyo is doing, because it'll just be like, oh, well, Klaviyo is performing really, really well. And really what's happening is if you compare it on a 90-day basis, you're going to see, well, Klaviyo is performing even better since we added this one. So I think if there's the possibility to track attribution through Google Analytics and then pull that in as part of your reporting, so at least the brand then can see I'm invested this month in this tool and this is the results I'm getting on the back of it. Me personally, I think that the reporting is absolutely critical when it comes to demonstrating ROI for retainers. The agencies that don't have that are the agencies that lose their clients.
Yeah.
Matt, were you going to ask something?
Sorry. No, sorry, carry on, Rachel.
Matt, were you going to ask something?
Me, Matt? There's a couple Matts.
Not in my mind, no.
I had a use case that I was going to ask about, but it's a little, we have, it's B2B, it's parts for contractors. So contractors have to buy at a pace for their job sites. So they need stuff delivered if it's a large site on a regular basis. And there's a lot of pacing to it. And using a system like this, as you described, could be very interesting, but I don't think I have my mind wrapped around how it would integrate. Plus, we're Magento, so sorry everybody. We're not a Shopify agency, nor is that in our roadmap. So we're pretty much sticking to our Adobe Plus, we're B2B mostly. But I noticed on your Blueprint site, your industries are more like B2C focused. And I was wondering if there's any case studies where it's more of a B2B model.
Not many, to be honest. Mostly within that Shopify ecosystem, B2C is really where we land. We've got one or two clients that kind of like patch us together with a B2B use case, but not generally.
Because in my world, we're doing a lot of digital transformation from legacy companies that were doing phone orders still, print catalogs still. They haven't really delivered on digital solutions for their customer base, but it's a massive marketplace that still just has not caught up. Like the apparel, B2C, beauty, health, it's all probably 5 years ahead of where our clients are. So it's kind of interesting because we can watch the industry evolve and then take best practices as they come to market.
Yeah.
But I think the SMS for where we're at is going to come. It's probably a couple years out. So we have a lot of work to do to get them converted over. It's just a massive job to get these businesses turned around. Anyway, that was my question, kind of comment.
Got it. Yeah.
Harvey?
Yes.
Sorry, Karen.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, thanks. I'm not sure in this instance, but yeah, I appreciate all the same. Go on.
What's pricing like? You doing is it just kind of standard subscription, or are you doing kind of a price per like a kind of a take your cut of an order?
Yeah, great question. We're pairing very similar to Klaviyo, pricing per active customer, active subscriber. So the more you use Blueprint, the more value glean, the more the end client will pay over time. And it will just keep jumping up in mini tiers each time, exactly like Klaviyo.
Cool. So you'd go off like the amount of subscribers in Klaviyo, would you?
More Shopify, the amount of active customers that go through the Magic Cart. So yeah, it would be filtered down through Klaviyo.
Do you charge based on the amount people actually use the product?
Use it, yeah.
Okay, and there's no monthly subscription? Or?
No, so that's built in for that. It means that generally you start on the lowest tier, and then you'll generally creep up as the product gets better and better for you as more and more customers go through it.
Sure. Where can I get early access?
So good caveat. We've only got a few minutes left. Like I said, guys, we've got 20 or so free trials specifically for Reach and e-commerce partnerships. You can give Harry or I an email, drop us a heads up. We'll give you a heads up after this anyway through Reach, through Harvey at blueprint.store or Harry at blueprint.store. We're going to launch this ideally publicly in June, early June, but we've got pre-access before that, but it's very, very limited.
A couple of my agencies are going through it right now, so pretty excited to see. For the agencies doing Shopify and doing subscription and doing Klaviyo, it's going to be a very powerful combination. I'm all about layering your tech stacks to get their best return for your customer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent.
Cool.
Okay, this was great. Any other questions? I think everybody's so used to me talking shit for so long, for a whole hour, that everybody's in shock that they have to think themselves. Or maybe just in shock that I haven't spoken shit for the whole hour.
You've got a couple jabs in there.
I try.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Rachel, for the time. Lovely to meet everybody. Appreciate your feedback, and we'll give you a heads up after this. We'd love to see you get involved and make as much as we can help.
Perfect. Okay. Sounds awesome.
Cheers, Rachel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.